of Silicon Valley, our celebration of the appearance day of Lord Ramachandra. Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. Thank you. There'll be a few more people coming later, and among them, Shyamasundar Prabhu said he might come today. I talked to him yesterday, so that's nice. And we're also appreciating the decorations here in the temple room. Those of you online may not be able to see them, but I'm looking at them now. There's quite a few monkeys hanging from the windows, and Hanuman carrying the peak of Gandhamandana mountain, and lots of stones with the holy names written on them, reminiscent of the way that Ramchandra built the bridge, or rather his devotees did. And of course, Ramchandra had petitioned the ocean, who had been a little slow in showing up, and then Ramchandra, with his vision infused with his anger, had begun to boil the ocean until the ocean personified came and supplicated himself before Lord Ram. And then the devotees began building a bridge from the mainland, tip of Cape Comorin, all the way across the ocean to Sri Lanka. And by the mercy of Lord Ram and the holy name, as we see from these rocks, they floated. And that bridge was completed in order to let across the armies to conquer Lanka and allow Ramchandra to come across and kill Ravan. So that's nice. We see a lot of other foliage, some scenes from the Ramayana, looking at the decorations in the back. Which ones, could somebody report what you see from over there? Take the mic with you and tell us which pastimes we see decorated in the temple. We have Subhadra Devi, who's joined us from Hawaii. Thank you very much for coming, as usual. Let's see, report what leelas we have. There's some trees there.
So first we have the pastime where Lord Sita sees Maricha, the deer, and is captivated by it. So Lord Ram leaves the hut to go chase after the deer. And then that's like the scene. And then next is, I believe, after Sita is kidnapped. So Lord Ram is on a mission to reach her, and thus he calls the help of all of the animals, squirrels, monkeys, and helps build a bridge across the sea, which the stones end up floating, in assisting Lord Ram to get to Sita. And over here, we see Sita, who's held captive in Ravana's abode, and she's surrounded by other demonesses. And then there is the scene of Lord Ram finally reaching Ravan, and he has an arrow with him, and he is on with his whole army of monkeys to defeat him. And he shoots Ravan and his heads. And then finally, once Lord Ram is victorious, he takes Mother Sita back to Ayodhya and takes his seat for the palace.
I feel like we're actually there in the Leela with you. We have an eyewitness live reporter right from the scene of the Leela taking place, which is the fact, because the pastimes of the Lord are absolute. I noticed another detail in that back window. If you can get that shot again where the monkeys are, you'll see the waves. Those are waves coming up. Is there something written on the waves, or are they? Yeah, please say a little bit more. We're delving deeper into these pastimes in the back. Yeah, please say.
So this is Lord Ram when he was asked to go into Vanvas. So that's where you're starting off, actually, you're entering into the forest. So that's why you see this is in the forest, and you will see that all the Ram pastimes in the forest. That's what you see here. And then here, after the forest, the Sita gets kidnapped. So that's where, then we came to Rameshwaram here, and then you had Lord Ram and his Sena had built a bridge. So these are all the different sizes of rocks, because it's put by kids, adults, all the devotees that ISV have put together to show their love on it, and then they have put all the different language also. Yeah, and there, Ramananda Prabhu wants to say it's made of paper, but it's actually made of love. And yes, and then there is an ocean. So that's so you see the ocean where Hanuman is actually, going out to go get the jari buti. And that's where then they go into the Sri Lanka, in the Lanka. So that's what the thought is. But yes, it's the waves, it's the ocean, and then rocks that's been put on to get to the Lanka.
And I see there's clouds above.
Yes, the clouds above, and this is the Vanar Sena is up here, and then clouds in Lanka is.
Jai. Vayam tu na vajipnyama utamala shoka vikrame yashinvatam rasagyanam.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So we're continuing our celebration of Lord Ram's appearance day. And this morning we began the discussion with several verses that help us to understand the importance of Krishna's appearance in the world. In general, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. That's a living being controlled by destiny, so to speak, or its own karma. It's called anubhunkte. Actually, it's mentioned in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anu means to follow, and bhunkte means what you're getting right now. So whatever we're getting right now follows a sequence from what we ourselves have started and continued. So sometimes people think that I'm the doer and that everything, I'm controlling the world and so forth. And so Krishna says this is very foolish because we're actually being controlled. And Krishna makes much of this in the Bhagavad Gita, describing how we are engaging with the modalities of the world called the gunas. They're like ropes that dictate the way that we think, the level of determination that we have, our likes and dislikes. These are more or less predetermined because of our previous associations. We have a predisposition to all the various objects of the world, different kinds of associations we're attracted to or we're repulsed by, come from our previous experiences. So, how does one get free from this? In the teachings that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Sanatana Goswami, he said that the soul is in a kind of ignorance, maya mukta. And he said, maya mukta jiver. So then he said, nahi swata. He said it's not automatic. Swata means something happens automatically. So he says, Maya mugdha jivana nahi swata Krishna gyan. It's not automatic that one comes out of this control of the modes of material nature or the ignorance that one's in. So then he says, Jivere Krishna koila, Krishna Veda Puran. Therefore, Krishna has gone out of his way to disseminate knowledge so that one can adjust one's life. We were driving here today and there's more traffic because it's a Thursday. Something I have to keep reminding myself of. And I was thinking that because my wife was driving and then she changed directions based on more information given to her by, what's that app called? Waze, yeah, I think it's Waze. It's got that little character on it. Yeah, Waze told her, better go this way, not that way. And I was thinking how, as we're moving through life, we're more or less predetermined in the way that we move because of our ignorance and Maya, or the modes of nature, have taken over control. Prakriti kriyamana ani gunai karmani sarvasha. We're like puppets in the material energy. But according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when you get superior information, which is what Lord Krishna has given through the pen of Srila Vedavyas, then one can make a decision. I think I'll get off here instead of sticking in traffic. Unless you have that superior information, or let's just in the positive, once you get superior information, then you can make more choices about how to extricate yourself from that. But beyond that, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, again, reiterating the conundrum of the soul here in this material world, which is Tribir Gunamayir Bhaver Ebi Sarvam Yidam Jagat Mohitam Navijanati Mamebhya Paramavyayam, that there are these three modalities and we're controlled by those modalities. So then Krishna describes how one rises above the control of the three modes of material nature. And he says that by continuously practicing devotional service, one can gradually rise above the three modes of material nature. And the process of doing that is described by Krishna also. In a simple verse, he says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto. Think of me. So when sometimes people speak about God, they do it in it's very nondescript. It's ineffable. Somebody look up the word ineffable. Where they say God is ineffable, which means that you can't really describe him. Prabhupada resisted that description of God, or he actually fought against it because, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam, this is a secret, but it's an open secret. It's available to everybody. Krishna doesn't keep himself hidden unless we make a choice. Ineffable.
Ineffable. It's an adjective from the late 14th century, beyond expression, too great for words, inexpressible. From Old French, ineffable, or directly from Latin, if effabilis, unutterable. From in, not, opposite of, and effabilis, speakable. From effari, utter. From assimilated form of ex, out, and fari, to say or speak. And from Proto-Indo-European root pa, which means to speak, tell, or say.
Okay, so in essence, it means that you can't really say anything about God when one says that subject matter is ineffable, because it's beyond words. And therefore, some people say, well, just remain silent. Then why did you even say that then? So However, as Prabhupada pointed out, and as the Srimad Bhagavatam presents to us, Krishna, God, has a form. And he has various forms and ways that he appears in the world. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Itam nritirya grishi jeva jashavatara lokan vibhava yasi hamsi jagat pratipan dharmam mahapurusha pasi yuganuvritam chanakalo yadabhavas triyugota satvam. That's a prayer by Prahlad Maharaj. And he says that Krishna appears in various forms that are all very interesting. Itam nri, like he appears like a human being with 2 arms, like we have. Itam nritirya rishi, sometimes he appears as a rishi. Does everyone know what a rishi is? Rishi is like a highly learned sage, very wise person. Usually they're known to be reclusive. Can anybody give me the look in the Sanskrit dictionary and tell me the exact root of the word rishi? But in general, they're known to be renounced from the world and highly learned. And of course, there are what's called Raja Rishis, like kings even, who are spiritually oriented. But sometimes when we hear of rishis, we think of those that look a little gnarled. They have a beard and sometimes live in the forest, and sometimes that's sort of a cliche image of a rishi. And Krishna comes as a rishi, also like Parashuram is a notable incarnation of Krishna, comes sort of as a highly learned person. And Jasha means a fish. Avatarai means he comes in many different kinds of incarnations. And the word avatar doesn't come from the movie. It's actually a Sanskrit word. Avatara means one who is in a higher level and crosses down to another level, a lower level, in order to assist those who are stranded there. My extrapolation, avatara. So there are many types of avatars. Rishi Jashavatara, Lokam Vibhasayasi, Hamsi Jagat Pratipan. And it means that the Lord's very active. As he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Paricharnaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavam Yuge Yuge. Yuge Yuge means from time to time, or from yuga to yuga. A yuga is a time cycle, the cyclical way in which the universe is manifest and unmanifest. It's eternal, but it's like the guy who had a shop, and this person was coming there to shop, and he saw that the guy was closing his doors, and the shopper was a little surprised, and he said that, says you're open 24 hours while you're closing. And the guy said, yes, 24 hours, but not in a row. So the universe is open, or it's always here. It's available 24 hours, but sometimes it's closed because it goes back in the body of Mahavishnu. That's the conception of the creation in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's manifest sometimes and then unmanifest. It's so Lokan Vibhavayasi Hamsi Jagat Pratipan. Krishna comes from time to time in all the different, and integrates himself into the various worlds. Lokan means all the different worlds, according to the Vedic writings, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Brahma Samhita, and so forth. Yasya prabha prabhabato jagadanda koti shesha vasudad vibhuti binam tad brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tam ham bhajami. There are unlimited realms within the universe, and there are various atmospheres in those locations with various kinds of entities. Some of them human, like look around and see if you see any humans in here. We take it for granted, but we're living with humans. It's kind of remarkable, actually, that we're human. It's a rare occurrence to get a human body. And then it's easy enough to take it for granted and say, meh, I'm not getting my Amazon Prime quickly enough. My life's pretty sad. But there are various other kinds of entities described in the Vedas, 8,400,000 species of life, different species, 400,000 species of human life. And there are devas, or those who they have a supercharged kind of bodies. They're in charge of various energies of the universe and so forth. So Krishna enters within all those realms. Lokan vibhavayasi hanksi jagat pratipan. And he does it sometimes to keep the peace in the universe. He'll kill certain types of persons. Now that may sound, he's a killer. But when Krishna kills somebody, they get the greatest benefit. It's a simple way to get benefit from Krishna. It's to be killed by him. It's guaranteed liberation. And meanwhile, it helps to weed out those who are causing disharmony in the world. And that's what Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita. He comes to keep the peace here by taking away the people who are against peace and harmony and try to exploit everybody else. And at the same time, he lifts up those who are trying to make spiritual advancement. Hamsi jagat pratipan. So then he said, Dharmam mahapurusha pasi. Pasi means to protect. Yuganavritam. And so Yuganavritam means in different yugas, Vrita, he has different forms. This is mentioned also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that God has different forms, various forms. In many places it's mentioned, in Bhagavatam, asan varnas tarayo yasya, grinato nu yugam tanum, shuklo raktas tatapita, idanim krishnatam gataha. This is a description by Gargamuni. Those who don't know, he was the one who was the priest for the family of Krishna. Actually, his ceremony, called name-giving ceremony for the baby when Krishna appeared, was done in a cowshed. So don't feel bad if you don't get the venue you want for any of your ceremonies. They try to keep it quiet because Kamsa was looking for killing babies, especially trying to kill Krishna. Of course, that's impossible, but that was his endeavor. And he talked about how he was telling Nanda Maharaj, the father of Krishna, that your son, actually he was saying it in discrete language. He's actually the Supreme. And this Supreme incarnates in the world in different forms, at different times. Asan varnas trayo yasya. He comes at different times with different bodily hues. They're transcendental. I think someone asked the other day, it's like, well, how's green beautiful? You ever seen a green person walking around? But the Lord's body is transcendental. It's not an ordinary body that looks like green paint or something like that. But he does have various characteristics in different yugas. Asan varnas trayo yasa grinato nu yugam tanum. His body is different at different times. He assumes these bodies. Grinato nu yugam tanum. And what are some of the colors? Shukla, like white. Shukla, raktas, red. Tatapita. Pita means yellow, like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's mentioned there also that sometimes shuka, like a parrot. Green like a parrot, like Lord Ramachandra. Shukla Kṛṣṇa. So this is, Krishna comes at different times and different ages. And he's described as being all attractive. The form of the Lord is called Sakchit Ananda. Sakchit Ananda means a regular physical material body is a kind of imitation body. It's like a reflection of the original spiritual form of God, which is transcendental, but our forms in the material world are subject to decay. I don't know if you've noticed that. I'm starting to notice it a lot. And his isn't. And also our bodies are full of ignorance. His body is full of knowledge. In fact, he's omniscient. I once fell asleep. I was distributing books in the airport in Dallas, and I came out just to have a little prasad in the car, and it was a hot day, and I took a nap, and I woke up. It took me 5 minutes to figure out where I was. Have you ever had that happen? Now I feel like that all the time. So this is the material body subject to being affected by ignorance, but Krishna's body is never subjected to ignorance. So sometimes he plays the pastime of appearing to be forgetful of his position as the supreme, and this is an esoteric subject matter because he has internal energies that assist him in his play. People in the material world work because they have a debt, mostly student debt, and then mortgage, and in California mostly property tax. And so you got to work. There's no work in the spiritual world. That's why Prabhupada once said, somebody asked Prabhupada, why does Krishna play a flute? And Prabhupada answered, because he's all play and no work. And you might notice that he's barefooted also. He'd never get a job here in Silicon Valley with bare feet and a flute. Come to an interview. Maybe Google, I don't know. So Krishna's body is transcendental, and also his movement is whatever he moves for his own pleasure. Maya javani kachanam ajnad hoksa jamavyam nalakshase mudadrisha nato natya daroyata. One of his great devotees, the saint Queen Kunti, talks about Krishna as being like an actor who plays on a stage. He sets the stage, and if any of you haven't seen, later you can walk across the back of the temple and you'll see there's the scenes of Lord Ramachandra's appearance and his pastimes of crossing the ocean to Lanka, killing the demon Ravana, and then coming back as hero to his home city of Ayodhya. And there are many characters, and as Kunti says, Maya Javani Kachanam, there's a covering over Krishna's identity. He looks like he's sometimes in trouble, sometimes in deep anxiety and so forth, but this is Krishna's enjoyment, interacting with his various devotees and experience different transcendental emotions in relationship to them. And why would he come and fight somebody anyway? Because who could defeat God? But you'll find, and in all the ways that he does fight with demons, and Prabhupada once commented that there's more killing in the Bhagavatam than there is loving, practically, because he's killing so many demons. But that's also an expression of love. Because as I said, those who are killed by Krishna are liberated. But oftentimes when he's fighting, it suddenly looks like there's a chance that he might not win. When Lord Nrsimhadev fought with Hiranyakashipu, for instance, there was a time in which Hiranyakashipu slipped free from the grasp of Nrsimhadev. Do you remember that? This is in the Bhagavatam. And of course, Hiranyakashipu is this iconic demon, and Lord Nrsimhadev is one of Krishna's incarnations as half man, half lion, who came to protect his devotee Prahlad, who was a young boy, great devotee, who was being abused by his father Hiranyakashipu. So when they fought, then at one point, Hiranyakashipu escaped the grip. And everyone who was watching, it was a pay-per-view, and it was huge attendance. People thought, uh-oh, he might lose this one. And especially those who had been enslaved by Hiranyakashipu, they were watching and cheering when Hiranyakashipu had grasped, when Lord Nrsimhadev had grasped Hiranyakashipu when he got free, they were thinking maybe they were seen cheering on the enemy, and now it's going to be twice as bad. So it created some drama. But then, as Prabhupada explains in his commentaries, a cat sometimes catches a mouse, and it plays around with it for a long time before devouring it. Sorry, I know this is a family show, but I have to bring it up. They let it go and then catch it again. It's like, okay, go ahead. No. So God likes to play like that and fight with demons. It's called vira rasa, this heroic rasa where he'll come and fight with others. And this is part of his play, or his lila. So this is what's really going on. Now, we can watch drama in this world, and everybody does, because we're interested. There are different kinds of drama you can watch, right? When I was a young person, my parents used to take me to plays all the time. There was Berkeley Repertory Theater. We always had season tickets, and we go to the Repertory Theater, and if it was a tragedy at the end, I remember feeling traumatized. Especially one play, it was called Duchess of Malfi. Have you seen it? Oh my God. So everybody gets killed. So, you'd come out all depressed, and sometimes they're very joyful about being earnest. And, there's Shakespeare comedies, there's this, that. And then, of course, there's the soap operas, otherwise affectionately known as the soaps. And then they were called soap operas because housewives, we could say that back then, housewives were, at home, and they were washing the clothes. And so they were selling soap. So they called them soaps because they were on and they would capture the attention. It carried over into the 80s. Everybody was watching soap operas because of the drama, right? Big name soap operas that if you mention them, anybody says, oh yeah, I've heard of that. People are intrigued by watching relationships, by, dramas and things like that. But in the material world, these dramas are the ultimate result of hearing about these dramas is not transcendental. In fact, as we were mentioning this morning or the day before, or someday, that there's a way in which the great actors of this world become old, and then everyone forgets about them. Even athletes, after they retire, remember hearing about a famous baseball player. I know I should say cricket, but I don't know any players. Joe DiMaggio, and he got pushed out of the way on the street from somebody trying to catch a bus after he was a national hero. And in this way, these pastimes in the material world come and go. But when we're able to transfer our attention to Krishna's, what's called lila, then his transcendental activities, he says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyakvadeham punarjanma naiti mam ete surjana. So as a compare and contrast, I should have said that watching the activities of people engage in regular romance, which is usually the plot, as the plot thickens, that's what happens. Otherwise, nobody's going to watch it. We become more entangled in the material world and attached. But when one sees or hears the Leela of Krishna, it's different, because Krishna's different. He's transcendental. He doesn't have a material body, and he's not bound by the modes of nature. And in this world, relationships are dictated by the modes of nature. The plot thickening, where, if, as they used to say, boy meets girl, that's what happens. That this is coming from the mode of passion, dictating. And so in the spiritual world, these relationships are not dictated by passion, but they're free activities. The Lord's enjoying himself in relationship with free living entities who are not bound by the material nature. It's out of transcendental love that they're engaged in activities. So that's why Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam. My janma means my birth. It's an apparent birth, because most people, and again I'm still comparing and contrasting, in the material world they're forced to take birth. It's by what's called karma daiva netrena, by karma, and then the higher authorities decide where you get to go. Did anybody pick the body they're in now? Did you get a little certificate that you signed up for this? You don't get one when you leave either. They just add up everything that you did in this life and what your consciousness is. Like, all right, tell you what we're going to do for you, little fella. here's what you're going to get. Karmana daivanetrena jantur dehupapate stri pravishta udaram pumso reta kanashraya. There's a mechanical process practically that takes place in the material world where you're forced to take another birth somewhere else, good or bad or mixed. And that's just the way it is. But Krishna is not like that. He's completely free, and he comes out of his own sweet will. So his janma, or his appearance in this world, is transcendental. And karma we generally think, it means, the results of our past activities. And it does mean that. It comes from the root word kṛ, which means to work. But Krishna's work or movement even, can mean that, is not material. He's not working because he's forced to. He's working out of joy. This is the prerogative of the Supreme. He has nothing to do except enjoy himself. And so janma, karma, his birth, his activities are divyam. Everyone say divyam. Divyam, they're divine. And they're not affected by the three modes of material nature that we discussed. Now it gets better. Should I keep going? It gets a lot better. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata. So tattvata means to, we translate it here as truth, to know something as categorically true. Those tat, say tat. Tat means, it's the same word in English, that. You just add a H, tat and that. So it's a demonstrative pronoun, like this cup. I'll say that cup, that's tat. Because there's something I can point to and say, that's there, that. What is it? That. So tattva means those things that you can actually point to. They exist. They're real. And there's a distinction between things that exist and that don't exist. I mean, how can something not exist? Well, in this way, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, nasato vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sata, upayorapi drushnon tas tvanios tattva darshibi. Those who see truth, they understand the categories of energy of the world. And so the category of the energy of the material world is that it comes and goes. It's always in flux. And it doesn't endure. Whereas the spiritual world's permanent. It's always there. Even as this material world's coming and going, the spiritual world's permanent. Same with us as spiritual souls. Even though the body's changing, we don't change. We don't die. And we can never die. We only change places. So those who understand what is what, and they understand categories of energy. There's a way in which people sometimes make categorical errors. Like, here's a categorical error that'll ruin your whole day. Thinking, I'm my body. See, if you make that mistake, then you'll be in anxiety all day because you'll be looking in the mirror and goes, I don't think I look as good as I think I should. Does this shirt look okay? Nothing ever works out on the material. If you think you're your body, you'll always be in anxiety. This is one of the points made by Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad Gita, that as long as you have this misidentification, you missed a whole category, you skipped that grade or something, you were sick, you didn't get the memo. Like, you're not your body. So if you don't know that, if you haven't learned that, you're not a tattva-darshibi. You haven't seen the categories of energy. You don't know truth. You don't know things that exist and things that are just passing through. And if you mistake one for the other, then you're bound to be bewildered. So, Kṛṣṇa says, if you know the difference between me and the forms, my form, for instance, the way I appear in the world, and the way I move in the world, and the way a conditioned person moves in the world, or a material body exists and takes birth. He says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata. If you know in truth the difference between those, that my activities are divine, then he says, tyaktva deham. So tyaktva means to give something up. And deham means the body that we're in now. Tyaktva deham punar janma. Naiti mamiti sorjana. If you can understand the difference, or know my divine nature, the way I appear in the world and the way I act in the world, that it's lila, it's play, it's not forced action, then you're not obligated to take birth again in the material world. It says here, tyaktva deha means the body, and tyaktva means to give something up. So when you give this body up, punarjanma naiti means you are not going to be forced to take another material body. He says to Arjuna, he's speaking to Arjuna. So this brings us to the verse we were discussing this morning. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham deham astitaha bhajate tadrishi kridha yashutva tat paro bhavet. And this means that the Lord especially gives his mercy by appearing in the world, just so that we can become acquainted with his nature. What's more, he does act wonderfully. He's known as a Rukrama, a wonderful actor. He does things that are amazing to hear. People are always looking for superheroes, and there are, I think, quite a few superhero movies or productions nowadays. A few that I've noticed, most of them are recycled. I hate to break this to any young people here, but the whole material world's recycled. If you hang around long enough, you'll see it's like, you don't have any other ideas? That's it? Just the same thing back over again? All the stuff. What is this, all the... Oh, I thought you were going to show me all the superheroes. Okay. What is it? 10, 33, 36. So there's Spider-Man, Ant-Man. See, everyone's waking up here. What is it? Iron Man? Batman. Oh, God. I mean, that one's definitely from the 60s. Okay. Wonder Woman. My personal favorite is Sonic the Hedgehog. Not really. I was just looking at his picture the other because we're using something like that for a promotional piece. But anyways, everyone wants some superhero, somebody who can do one. Where's that idea come from? It comes from Krishna. Because in the material world, every superhero has some fault. And of course, Superman has kryptonite, and that's kind of interesting. It makes the drama. And, in some ways, as I mentioned before, Krishna heightens the drama by seeming like, he's going to drop him. But he never does ultimately lose. Krishna's the ultimate superhero. And it's these heroic pastimes. The pastime of Lord Ramachandra is the classic hero's journey. In fact, George Lucas, verbatim, has taken this story and he then just superimposed it on. And admittedly, I mean, he talks about this in an interview. He took his story, what's it called? Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars is from the Ramayana. Where do you think, what's that big bear called? Wookiee? It's a Wookiee? His name's Shubal?
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca, that's one of the bears. Like when Ramachandra goes off to look for his wife, Sita, he gets help from these forest creatures. They're described to be just like that. They're, furry creatures, kind of like that, Chewbacca-like characters. And there is a way good against evil. And this is definitely there in the Ramayana because Ramchandra is perfectly moral. And he's known, his pastime is especially called Maryada. He follows all the rules of Dharma perfectly. So from Star Wars, which just costs you extra for popcorn and, I don't know if they still sell that stuff, popcorn with, if you want it with fake butter, they put that on for you for an extra $10. And then, you know, you come out with a stomachache and some illusory idea of the world, some sense of heroism that doesn't have any standing, ultimately. It's a phantom. But when you hear about Krishna's pastimes, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo viti tyakvadeham, you don't have to take birth again. There's a difference in hearing this. Therefore, anugrahaya bhaktanam, to show mercy to all those who want to make spiritual advancement. This is big news, what I'm saying right now. It's really big news. Not because I'm saying it, but because it's true. Anugrahaya bhaktanam. Anugrahaya, actually, the word itself, which we translate as mercy, anu means to follow, and graha means to grab somebody. Like if you know astrology, you know that when you talk about the planets, they're called grahas, grabbers, as they grab us and it's like, oh, you're in this period now, think like this, now think like that, now go over here. They're pushing us around. So there's a way in which Kṛṣṇa, when he appears, he's grabbing our attention and he's pulling us along to the spiritual world. Anugrahaya bhaktanam, all the bhaktas get to go back to Godhead just by hearing about his lila. And then he says, manusham deham astitaha. So he'll appear like an ordinary, apparently ordinary human person. Manusha means like man, a person, human. Manusham dehamastita, he'll assume a human-like form. And bhajate tadrishi krida, then, what's the last line? Yeah, that's the best line. Ya shutva tat parobhavet. Now, how do you take advantage of that mercy? How do you get pulled along to the spiritual world? Shutva. You just have to hear about it. And that's the magic of being a human. You're equipped with ears to hear, and you have a special superpower. The humans have the superpower of being able to conceive of God. We can conceive of causality, whereas animals that have covered consciousness, or contracted consciousness. Plants have covered consciousness. They can't think of God, according to the Vedas. Then animals, they're pretty smart. They know stuff. And they're just like us, really. Even spiders. I looked at a spider once, and he looked at me, and I said, "You're like me." And he goes, "Yeah, you're like me too." And then he took off. And I saw him eye to eye, and we had this, little communion there. But the only thing is, I sat down and read Bhagavatam. He went back to his web and ate bugs, because that's all he knows how to do. Even without a degree from Caltech, he can make a web. But he can't he can't think back. Like, I had ancestry, he's thinking on the web. I came from a little, where do spiders come from? Eggs? Came from an egg. That means there's generations back, and it goes back, and there must be an origin. Spiders don't think back like that. Cats don't either. In fact, they can't even tell if you throw a little pebble, they'll just jump on it. They don't think like, who threw that? So humans can do that. So yashrutva tat parobhavet, if the human being then listens to the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa, the lila, the play, then they get captured in a good way and pulled back to the spiritual world. So this is some substance of the practice of bhakti, is to hear about the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa, and he comes in different forms. And today is the day in which thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, he appeared as Ramchandra. And he has a home, he has loving parents, and there's all these twists and turns in the pastimes of Ram that are just absorbing and intriguing and captivating. And so it's highly advisable that one hear about these pastimes. So as we discussed this morning, Ram was set to be the crowned king. His father was old, and he saw bad omens, and he wanted to pass over the kingdom to his son, who was highly qualified, but there was an intervention where he couldn't do that, and instead of crowning his son as the king, he had to banish him to the forest. And his father was so distraught by this. He was obligated to do that because he had given some promises to his wife, who then turned against him at the last minute due to bad influence, bad association, and she insisted that now I want you to fulfill the boons or the benedictions that you offered me before, and one of them is that my son becomes the king, not Ram. And the other one was that Ram has to go to the forest, which was a big thing back then, because it wasn't like there was REI and, you just go get kitted up and like, yeah, I'll go to the forest, no big deal, I got a tent. What? Get a yurt. No, for a king or a prince to be pushed off to the forest was like, excommunication. It was like death practically. So he was obligated to go to the forest like that. And there's a pathos in this whole story about how attached everybody was to Ram in the city of Ayodhya. And they tried to go with him to the forest, but he wanted to fulfill his father's word. And so he went to the forest, and this whole intrigue took place where his wife was kidnapped. His wife was the goddess of fortune, Sita. And this iconic demoniac figure named Ravana, who is full of himself. He had developed himself materially so much that he had material powers, and he was able to kidnap Sita and hold her hostage because he wanted to enjoy her, but she wouldn't submit. And finally, Ram garners help from this monkey army. And the story is, have you seen the Srimad Bhagavatam? If you haven't, it's the set of books on the top shelf of that cupboard. It's got, how many verses? 18,000 verses. The Ramayana, which tells the pastimes of Ram, it's 3 times bigger. So there's a lot of rain nowadays. You get to curl up in a chair somewhere. Just read, call in sick. Only take you a couple of years to finish it, the Ramayana. There's a few summaries. But the detail in the Ramayana of all the activities of Ram, so much of it takes place in the forest, of him living in the forest and so forth. Intriguing and captivating to the mind. And he comes home after killing Ravana, and as a great hero, they welcome him back. So that's the shortest version of Ramayana you've ever heard, probably. But I want to say something that's a lesson from the pastime, if I may. But I'm going to do it right after we sing a song that'll really make us cheerful. And this song is called the ārya-vacasā Stotram. This was written by a very famous devotee named Jayadev Goswami, and he wrote about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. We're not really, our great teachers and predecessors have steered us away from reading that book because it's a little too esoteric for beginners. But the beginning of that book is this song. And it talks about the greatness of Krishna's incarnations because he wanted everyone to know that these pastimes are not ordinary. It's not soap opera. It's not General Hospital. It's the pastimes of the Supreme that are eternal, and you have to be in a certain consciousness to understand them. You have to have a kind of shraddha. Shraddha means orientation of understanding. As I said before, the difference between my body and Krishna's body. It's not the same. So to do that, he gave this song called the Dashavatara Stotra, and it's a very happy, joyful song, and it mentions many of the different avatars of Krishna that come to the world, and they're varied. So that's kind of interesting, right? In fact, even this beginning slide's kind of nice, don't you think? Only 2 people like it, okay. So there are many dancers that perform this. There's a style of Indian dance called Bharatanatyam, and there are mudras which express the appearance. Mudra means like, yeah. So I'm going to try one. The appearance of different avatars. And the expert dancers, we've seen these recitals before. They're captivating, where the dancer will be acting out the appearance of these different avatars. And so this song recounts all of them together, and we'll sing it together in unison, and you'll see as the pictures go by which avatar we're singing about if you don't know already what the verses say. Shall we try it? Yes. Oh, all right. So obviously this is Jasha, or the fish, incarnation of the Lord. Let's just go review them first. We'll go through it slowly, do a walkthrough so we know what we're looking at. So this is Krishna's fish incarnation. You know what he's called? Matsya, yeah. How do you do? Or is that Kurma? Matsya, okay. Okay, then, next. Kurma, you can't tell it's a turtle, but yeah, that's Kurma. He appeared as a turtle. You'll never look at turtles the same. Next. This is Varaha, the boar, the pig. And that's kind of amazing. Next. This is Nrsimhadev, half man, half lion. Okay, next. Vaman. Vaman is a little tiny boy Brahmin. Brahmin means like from the highest realm of society and learning, and he's noted in many of the Vaishnava scriptures as being one of the most attractive of all the incarnations. You can't take your eyes off him. Just like little kids who have knowledge, and they're also a little humble, and they're cute. You know, people like, who was that? So you can imagine when God appears like that, how captivated everyone gets. Look at them all, how they're looking at him, see? That's Vaman. Okay, but he's a great cheater. Okay, next. This is Parashuram. He was a warrior. He was a deadly warrior, and there were a lot of cheaters on the planet at that time. You know, this happens a lot. People consolidate power, even in religious organizations, and then they try to lord it over everybody, and they mess everything up. So this is one of the incarnations who comes and says, enough's enough. You guys, you're finished. See you later. So he just cuts them up. Next. Here it is. Haribol. This is Sita and Rāma in the forest. So we're so lucky to have this recount that they're there in the forest, and he's got his bow and arrow and so forth, and we'll sing about Sita and Rāma. Next. 8. Who's that? Krishna Balaram? Balaram. It's about Balaram. Of course, we have Kṛṣṇa and Balaram there. Krishna is not listed here because he's the avatari, which means he's the source of all the avatars, so they don't include him as an avatar, because all of them are emanating from Krishna. Of course, whoever made the PowerPoint put Krishna and Balaram, but that's fine. And next, Buddha. So Buddha appeared to institute ahimsa, or nonviolence, because people lost their minds at that time, and they were using the scriptures to make exceptions. So yeah, we can kill animals. It was there in the ancient Vedas. Well, they didn't mention the part that they had the power to bring the animal back to life when they did a sacrifice, but then people started opening up delicatessens and saying, you know, like, do whatever you want. So Buddha came and said, forget all that, just follow me, which was another kind of cheating, because he said there is no God, but he was God. So Krishna does stuff like that. Okay, next. Here's Kalki, another enough's enough incarnation. He comes at the end of Kali Yuga, just evens up the score. It's like anybody that's left over, okay, you'll be liberated. See you later. And then, let's see, last slide. You have all of them. It's a summation verse, and this is a beautiful picture to show people sometimes. Oftentimes, This picture is in the Bhagavad Gita when we're in public and we offer the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes, and often actually, some people from India, they go, "Oh, I already know Bhagavad Gita." I said, "Really? Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a little quiz." And I open to this picture. I say, "If you can name all these avatars, I'll let you go. Otherwise, you got to buy the book." Okay. So now we know what they are, and we'll start at the beginning. In the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, which are famous all over the world. I say that factually. I'm not. If you go to Thailand, for instance, you'll find that the bridges, roads are all named after Ramchandra. The bridges are named Rama 1, Rama 2, Rama 3, and so forth. You'll see images of Ramchandra there. Indonesia, I mentioned this morning too. Anywhere where Ramchandra is known, his pastimes become beloved of the people who hear of them, and so forth. And they're also discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Ramayana is not the Bhagavatam, it is Bhagavat, because it's about God. And as I mentioned, Yashutva Tatparobhavet, those who hear about God or Krishna transform. And Krishna, or Sutta Goswami says this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, that just by hearing you gain spiritual credit. If you want to know where you get spiritual credit from, it's not that hard. You have to show up and you have to hear about the pastimes and activities of Krishna and the philosophy that he speaks as well. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a famous verse which describes the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And they are summarized as follows. I'll say the verse and then I'll come to the point that I would like to make today that I think is very practical. Tyaktva sadusya jasa repshita raja lakshmin dharmishta ārya-vacasā yadagararangam mayam ragam dayite yipsitam anbadavad vande mahapurushate charanāravindam. So the last line is saying that we're offering obeisances to the Mahapurusha. The Mahapurusha means the personality who's the greatest. And Vande means like I offer my respects. Vande Mahapurusha to the feet. Charanāravinda means to the lotus feet, because that's a sign of respect. That you're pointing towards the feet. And the first line describes Ramachandra's pastimes. Now, this verse was spoken by one of the Yogindras. There's 9 Yogindras. They're called the Nava-Yogindras. And they just are great liberated souls. They were sons of Bharata. Bharata had 100 sons. 9 of them were called the Yogindras. Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabhupada, Pipalana, Avarhotra, Chamasa, Drumala, and Karabhajana. Karabhajana speaks a lot about Kali Yuga. We can relate to that. We're in it. He also talks about Lord Chaitanya. And he also talks about Lord Ramachandra. So in this verse, he says, Tyaktva sadusyaja sharepshita raja lakshmi. And this first line means that everybody wants good fortune in this world. True or false? Yes. Okay, only 4 people answered. So try the other way. Let's try the other one. Everybody here prays for bad fortune. True or false? See, I get more of an answer. Come on. I asked Satyadev once, we were walking down a Black Friday in San Francisco. I said, everyone's trying for some happiness. He said, no, they're not. They're trying to avoid distress. That's what everyone does, more than try to find happiness, because there is no real happiness. It's so fleeting here. You just try to ward off distress. So, tyaktva sadusya jasarepshita. So what this means is even the higher beings in the higher planets, known as devas, have very high lifestyle standard, live in gated communities, and, oh, that sounds like here. So they want the goddess of fortune. So if you walk around Silicon Valley and go door to door, you'll find a lot of people have symbols or direct images of Lakshmi. Lakshmi means the goddess of fortune. Goddess of fortune. So, goddess of fortune, they all want, please come here. Nobody's saying, no, we got enough. We're fine. We don't need anything. So everyone wants that, but this says that tyaktva, what does it sound like? Tyaktva, I'm giving it up. Like, no thanks. Does everyone say tyaktva? So that's what Ramchandra did. He was detached. He was able to give up all his fortune and go to the forest. So then it says, dharmishta ārya-vacasā. So here's the words I would like to really emphasize. So vacasā, vacha means words or to speak. And ārya means the superior or the highly authorized person. So ārya-vacasā means the words that come from the authority. Like we have this acharya system where the great teachers, like in science, everyone respects the great teachers. Any scientists in here? No scientists? One, okay. So when you go to a science class, you learn about mostly those who have made great breakthroughs. And they have a system of knowledge which gets passed down, and you just follow that. You don't go back and try to research it or reinvent it. So the Arya means the great authorities. And so in the pastime of Lord Ram, something remarkable happened that is almost hard to believe. I mentioned it before that his wife had taken back or called in some boons that he had given. He was a warrior that I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I didn't give context. I'm talking about Dasharatha. He was the king of Ayodhya, and he was elderly. He had fought many wars, and he was a very powerful warrior and great king. Everyone loved him. And he had several wives, and one of them was named Kaikeyi. And she had assisted him once when he was in a battle, and he was injured, and she saved him from the battlefield. She was also obviously a powerful person herself. And he had then offered her 3 boons. Anytime she wanted, she'd take some boon from me, I want to pay you back. Whatever you want from me, I'll give it. And she said, oh, no, that's okay, I'll take it later. Maybe some other time. Well, that came to be at a time when Ram was just about to be coronated, and Kaikeyi was very happy about it, even though that's not her son. It was he was born from one of the other wives. But he was beloved by everybody. But on the day before his coronation as king, there was a maid in the house who was named Mantara. And she was very envious of Ram, and she was also being sustained by Kaikeyi in her house. And she put this idea in Kaikeyi's head by speaking to her in low tones so nobody else could hear, clandestinely, that if Ram is installed as the king tomorrow, you're going to be kicked out. Now she was thinking, maybe I'll be kicked out. That was her worry, because she had a vested interest in the whole thing, because she was being paid by Kaikeyi. So enviously she spoke against Ram, and somehow or other Kaikeyi's mood changed, and she became frightened, thinking, I'm going to lose everything, and my son won't be prominent. By the way, this is the theme of the Bhagavad Gita too, which I won't go into right now. So Kaikeyi then, on the advice of Mantra, decided to ask her husband for the 3 boons. And Mantra's suggestion was, insist for the first boon that your son, Bharata, is installed as the king rather than Ram. Even though that would have been illegitimate, because the law of primogeniture, Ram was the eldest son. He should have been installed. Besides, everybody loved him the most, including Kaikeyi until that very moment. Second, so there's no mistaking, and like if Ram stays here, even as Bharat's installed, there could be people would actually have their natural affection going to Ram, and it would really ruin things for Bharat being a king. So we'll send the second boon. I want you to send Ram to the forest. That was a well-known punishment for people that just be exiled. You're out. You have to go to the forest, leave the kingdom behind, go for 12 years, you're gone. That's it. No support system, just live off fruits and roots. And third, see, what was the third? That's it? Okay, 2 boons. Lucky thing, I didn't make up a third one. Okay, so... as if that wasn't enough. So, of course, Dasaratha was loved his son so much, and when he heard these things, he was incredulous, and he fainted. And then he came back to consciousness. Have you ever had that happen? You heard such bad news, you just like get on the internet and hope it didn't happen, and come back and it's like, no, it's still happening. So he tried to dissuade her, but she wasn't budging at all. And this was a kind of destiny that opened up this whole Leela of him going to the forest. So Dasaratha, who loved his son, based on this idea that he had made a promise and nobody in his dynasty had ever broken a promise to anyone. This was the level of truth that was held sacred at that time, which is apparently no longer in place as much. No commentary. So Dasaratha had to tell his own son that I'm replacing you and you're going to the forest, and that's it. And when he spoke those words, it was like a dagger going into his heart. Tyaktva sadushyata, Ram immediately accepted. It was the words of his father, that was his guru as far as he was concerned, and his authority. He loved his father. He didn't complain. All he said was, because at first Dasaratha couldn't say it himself. He couldn't bring himself to utter the words. And Kaikeyi said them. This is what it is. Am I okay? Everyone move up by 7.2 inches, please. Everyone okay? It's fun, right? Okay. So... the only complaint that Ram had was, Father, why didn't you tell me directly? So heart-rending, isn't it, to hear this pastime? So Dasaratha admitted that this was true and that, it was coming from him, and this is what he wanted. Ram then immediately accepted. He went and told his biological mother, the coronation's not happening tomorrow, and he wasn't passive-aggressive. He wasn't disturbed. He took it as duty. That ārya-vacasā, ārya-vacasā means the words that were uttered by his authority. He just took it. It came from him. He verified that's what he wanted. I'm doing it. I'm not going to gerrymander this. I'm going to take it as it is. And then he went off to the forest, minus a billion details. So he went to the forest. Now, while he was in the forest, as he had penetrated the forest and they were getting settled, and I say they because his wife Sita, who was very loyal, went with him, and also his younger brother Lakshman, who is practically a shadow since the time they were born, also went with him. And they were together in the forest, learning the ways of living off the land and so forth. And Bharata, who was away from the kingdom at the time, who had heard that this was the edict given by his father, didn't accept it. He said, I don't want to be king. Everyone wants Ram to be king. And what's more, Bharata was angry at his mother, to say the least, and severely, spoke to her severely about it. And he was so disturbed by this that he put together a small group of soldiers and went in the forest to find Ram, to ask him, take back the kingdom. Take it back. I won't take this, no matter who said what. I'm not taking it. You're the rightful heir to the throne. Everyone loves you. I love you. Everyone wants you to have it. And of course, they penetrated the forest. They went there. There was some sense in Lakshman, who is a bit hot-tempered, and that's a long subject matter, but he has this nature, Lakshman, who's Balaram, and he's kind of has a protective spirit for his brother. He was keeping watch, because the forest, you have to watch out for who's coming. And he thought, oh, here comes Bharata, he's coming, it's not enough you were exiled, he wants to kill you now. Never assume, right? He assumed. And Ram was much more cool-headed. He said, no, that's probably not what it is. Let's wait and see. So as Ram had predicted, when they came there, it was something else. All of the elders from Ayodhya had come, the priests, the wise people, and Bharata himself to beg Ram, please come back and take the kingdom back. I don't want it. Ram was resolute. Even they brought attorneys. And they had these, like, we found some loopholes. You can get out of this. Just like Shukracharya, he told Bali, he said, like, he didn't, the water pot thing, we didn't pour water, you forgot to say Om, you can get out of this. There's a loophole. So there were attorneys there, and they had some pretty interesting arguments. It's all mentioned in the Ramayana about how they were, telling him, see, you can come back, it wasn't sealed, it's okay. But Ram said, no, my father said it. I heard him say it. Ārya-vacasā. I'm taking it, and that's all there is to it. I'm not moving on this. So Bharata, of course, being a divine being himself, one of the manifestations of the Supreme, an expansion of Krishna, also in the Leela, he became resolute that, yes, on behalf of Ram, because Ram said, now you take over, Bharata, as that's what my father said. He said, yes, I will follow your words, ārya-vacasā, but I'm going to do it on your behalf. So when he went back to Ayodhya as the king, he did it as a surrogate. And he took Ram's shoes and he put them on the royal throne. And they became the object of worship. And he said, this is Ram's kingdom. I'm only I'm only ruling on his behalf. And so this principle of ārya-vacasā, you'll find in the Bhagavad Gita also, where Krishna mentions when you have a prescribed duty, it's been given to you, don't try to shirk your duty, don't not do it, don't try to do somebody else's duty, do what you are prescribed to do. Everything has some faults. Just as fire has smoke, but you still have to complete your duty. Otherwise, you'll be negligent and you won't be successful. And this principle is very powerful. In the Bhagavad Gita, you'll find in a couple of verses where when Krishna is giving instruction, who is Krishna, by the way? Well, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the ultimate authority. He quotes from Shastra or Scripture himself. He'll say, according to... Well, he'll say, according to the sages, in the Vedanta Sutra and so forth, he quotes authority to show the example. He even takes a spiritual master when he's a youngster to show that, no, you have to follow the line of authority and so forth. And this is the principle that our Srila Prabhupada, who's our founder Acharya, who's sitting on this ornate seat called the Vyasasana as a representative of this principle, that when you receive an order from the Arya, or your authorized authority, that's redundant, from your teacher who's authorized, then your success comes from following it. And that's the meaning of the Vyasasana. The Vyasa is known to be the authority who wrote down all the Vedas to present them to the world. And those who follow Vyasa, and they follow the disciplic succession, those who are learned in Vyasa's teachings and then teach them to others and say, this is how to conduct yourself and be a representative. So as Prabhupada would say, the word isn't so common nowadays, but a peon. A peon nowadays, it has some, not a clear meaning, it just means a small timer or something, but it actually means somebody who carries, look it up, we'll see it, thank you, where it comes from. But it's, Prabhupada would often say that the spiritual master, we say master, but he doesn't think of himself as a master. He said, I'm like a postal peon. I'm just carrying the letter and delivering it. So now, I don't know about your postal carrier, but mine drives in a U.S. postal truck. Of course, it should say on the side, junk mail, because that's mostly what comes nowadays. But he also, or she also, wears a uniform, and that's a federal uniform. They could even live in my same neighborhood and mow their lawn just like everybody else, but when they put on the uniform, they drive the truck, they're official. So those who are able to catch up the ārya-vacasā, the words that are coming down authoritatively through this disciplic line, coming from the authority of Kṛṣṇa, passed down over many generations. By taking that, and as in essence what Bharata did, he put those shoes up and he said, okay, not my will, but thy will, I'm going to follow this, what your words say, and it doesn't matter if it looks like I'm going in the wrong direction, because everyone said, Ram, you're going to the forest, you should be king. He said, that's okay. I'm following the ārya-vacasā. And of course, it all came out properly. And when Prabhupada followed the order of his spiritual teacher, he was 79 years old when he embarked on a journey on a not well equipped cargo ship with no connections in America, but he, as he wrote, he's only following the ārya-vacasā. His guru said to do it, so he's doing it. And many people said this is foolhardy, you'll die. He almost did, but he followed the ārya-vacasā, and as the Krishna consciousness movement, as we see it now, has spread to every continent, we're working on Antarctica. Prabhupada claimed these victories by this principle only. He said, it's not me, it's the ārya-vacasā. It's the fact that I receive these words, and I'm just trying to carry them out. That's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm successful. It's because I'm acting on behalf of the Arya, or the authority. So this principle exempts us from the entanglement of the material world. The moment, as a bank teller, I take $1 off the top of the stack and put it in my pocket, it'll be on camera nowadays. You're fired. He says it's only $1. It doesn't matter. It's the principle. That's not yours to touch. So this world isn't ours to touch either. Only on behalf of the owner of this world, who's mentioned in the Sri Ishopanishad, Ishavashamidam sarvam. I'll give you a verse to solve all your problems. You want all your problems solved? Yes. Okay, only half of you said. The other half, cover your ears. Okay? You want your problem solved? Yes. All right, here you go. Ishavashamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magrada kasisutanam. Here it is. Everything animate or inanimate within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. You can thank me later. This is the principle through which anyone can live in this world without being, and I hate to say being, and then the next word, besmirched, means smeared by the material energy and entangled in the material energy. Krishna says in the Gita that just as a lotus flower comes from the mud and it sits in the water but doesn't become wet. Lotuses are amazing like that. They're in the water and they're in the mud, but they don't become muddy or wet. So similarly, if someone lives in this world with this principle that I've just described, that I'm doing this on behalf of the authority, not for me, it's for the authority, then you're never entangled in this world. And you can become a conduit for Krishna. In fact, that's what the Krishna consciousness movement is. It means to become a representative to the world to give goodwill, to become an ambassador of goodwill to the world. We can do our own thing. We can develop 401ks. I don't know what's happening nowadays or what is going to happen. It'll come and go. All the ways that we try to establish ourselves here or think of doing good for others by our own machinations will not ultimately be successful. But if we take up the ārya-vacasā and say, okay, let me follow the authority and see how I can do good for others, I become a representative. And the power moves through such a representative as much as the postal worker carries checks for millions of dollars and so forth and doesn't touch any of it, but moves the energy. So this is a lesson that we can take from Rāma because he was fixed on this principle of ārya-vacasā, and that is the principle that Krishna gives most prominently in the Bhagavad Gita for success, and it's what our founder Acharya showed by his example as he walked through the world. He didn't touch one penny from the stack and say, this is for me. Everything was for the service. So all in service to the Supreme Personality of God. You keep your house, keep your car, keep all your money, develop more. In fact, please do. We need $10 million tonight, if possible. If you have it, meet me in the back. Because we're going to buy you a bigger place because there's more people want to get in. Plus, we're starting we're expanding our educational system here, starting a proper school, K through 12. We have ideas of developing a performing arts studio and greatly enhancing the temple area. What to speak of starting an academy where lots of people from the Bay Area and beyond can come here and be fully trained in bhakti yoga and so forth. So please see me after and make the check to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. It's only 10 million, it's not a big deal. Right? Yeah, thank you. So today we can remember this principle. God himself follows the authority, and this is infallible. My last point on this is a quote from Srila Prabhupāda's purport in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto. In a purport, he says that the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a manifestation of his internal potency. And it is by this potency that one comes to see the Lord face to face. I'll say it one more time. He said the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a manifestation of his internal energy. And it is by this energy that one comes to see the Lord face to face. So one may say, how do I come in contact with the internal energy? How do I see God face to face, which is the ultimate goal of yoga? Ārya-vacasā. Take the word that comes from the Bhagavad Gita, take the word that comes from the great teachers who say, go this way, not that way, and find a way to be directed by the Arya, not by one's own mind in this world or one's own desires to try to make a place for oneself in this world. The score so far is Maya, 1 trillion to the trillionth power. Living entity, 0. If it's a game show, living entity always loses. So now we just have a few minutes before the offering of the results of Sankirtan. It was a very short marathon, but we're going to offer the results. And we're going to have a little kirtan right now. Are you all up for it? Yes. Okay. On my Rolodex, because there's various Shyamasundars that I know, it's Shyamas 1967 Shyamasundar, who helped Prabhupada spread the movement in many parts of the world. He has several books that he's written which are absolutely 100% engaging and heartfelt, and which bring us closer to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. And he's just recently finished an audio book for the first one, and he even has a platform that he's made it available for. So, sorry, he told me not to say anything, but it's available, and let's all get one. Okay? I won't take long. I just came out to sing the Prasadam song. This is the 10th year we've been here. We moved here on Ram Navami 10 years ago. Our idea, since we started ISV back in around 1998, was if we tried to do the right things, then Krishna would provide all that we need. We try not to stray from the main mission of our spiritual master and our founder Acharya, which was to give benefit to other people. So we've primarily focused here over many, many years on going out and giving knowledge through book distribution and teaching classes and helping educate other people. And we've left the brick and mortar part, that is having space in which to do it, to Kṛṣṇa, which he's gradually helped us move from a very small house on New Jersey Avenue where the neighbors said, hey, wait a minute, you can't have a church here, to a little strip mall a couple blocks away where the landlord finally said, hey, wait a minute, you can't have a church here, to a very odd little space we had, which was in an unincorporated area, so no one could tell us to leave except for the landlord was merciless and kept raising the prices, and it was not a very nice space anyway. And we finally came here and took refuge and actually purchased this place 10 years ago. And now we have vision, we're feeling it, where we're looking to expand even more. Mostly we're looking on expanding in a mission-based way, not just space for the sake of having space, but for the sake of expanding, number one, our educational system. We're working to develop a very competitive academic school in a spiritual environment where kids don't have to feel so much stress. And we have very qualified teachers and those organizing it and developing it as we speak. And we have several other aspects to ISV that we really focus on. We'll be presenting those more and more for those who want to become more involved in service and so forth. And in the meantime, we're poking around all around this area, looking for properties and so forth that we can expand into. Now that we've reached the 10-year mark, I said 7 years, but now it's 10. And as in the other places, we're feeling the hand of Krishna moving energies to show us the next place where we can do an even better job of serving everyone here in Silicon Valley. We're so grateful that you came here tonight. This is heartfelt. When we come to these festivals, we go away feeling improved and spiritually enlivened just by being in an association. So much spiritual enthusiasm. I pray on this day, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman may infuse all of us with great enthusiasm to perform devotional service to their lotus feet. And may we all work together here in Silicon Valley to give a shining example of what cooperation and loving service to God looks like, and for reaching out to help as many people as possible. Thank you very much. Om Tat Sat. Now we're going to sing everyone's favorite song. It's in Bengali, but what it really means is it's time to take prasadam. Prasadam is spiritual food. We offer the food to Krishna with love and devotion. And this song says that just by honoring this prasadam, you can become a great yogi. What yogis take 10,000 years to do in meditation, tonight you will achieve in one sitting by honoring this prasadam.